Hey there, welcome to another episode of Moandain Designs. I'm your host Moandain. This video is part of my favorite series, and today we're going to be talking about my favorite role-playing games. Role-playing games have been a major staple in my collection for quite some time, and one of the main reasons why I play video games. I love the stories that they tell. I love the combat systems. I love the wonderful graphics and stuff like that. But sometimes storyline is all I need. So with all of that, these are my favorite RPGs, not presented in any particular order. First up, we have Grandia on the PlayStation, released 1997 by Game Arts. Yeah, I know I'm talking about Grandia again, but guess what? We're just going to skip on past all of that, and you can, if you want to hear me go on about Grandia, you can go back and watch one of my reviews, or watch one of my earlier videos about Grandia, and that'll be that. Alright, so on to Super Nintendo, or a game on the Super Nintendo. It's Lufia 1 on the Super Nintendo, 1993 by Taito. Lufia was not graphically a wonderful looking game, and the combat system was not great, but it wasn't terrible. It was mainly just the storyline. It drew you into the point where you cared about the characters, and I found myself shouting at the screen during some of the heart-wrenching moments. After that was Lufia 2, again on the Super Nintendo, released 1995 by Taito. It's mainly just a prequel where you get to learn a lot of the behind the scenes of why the world is the way that it is and stuff like that. And again, just a wonderful game. Very underrated. It did kind of get overshadowed by Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger and a lot of the other big towering RPGs on the system. Up next we have Final Fantasy Tactics on the PlayStation 1, 1997 by Squaresoft. I love this game. Again, I could go on forever about Final Fantasy Tactics. I absolutely love the tactical RPG combat system, and it's so good. It's very, very good. Next up is Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo, released 1995 by Squaresoft. Chrono Trigger was one of the first times that I'd run into a couple of new features that I'd never seen before on previous RPGs, where you could select who was in your party, and that definitely mattered. You could do double text, you could do New Game Plus, and it was a storyline where you traveled through time and could affect multiple outcomes and things of that nature. And it was just really good. The game definitely spoke to me, and there's multiple ways you can get this game. You can download it digitally, you can purchase it on other systems than just the Super Nintendo, and it's definitely worth your time. Up next we have the Luminous Arc series. I have spoken about these before on my favorite DS games. Again, it's just basically if Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy Tactics had a baby, this is what it would be, and it's awesome, and it's multiplayer, and it's a very low print run game that is severely underrated. It's an Atlas title, so I mean that does lend it some merit from the Atlas name. I highly suggest people going and just checking it out. It's definitely, again, worth your time. Next up we have the Lunar series, released on Sega CD and PlayStation 1, 1992 by Game Arts, and brought to you by one of my favorite game companies, Working Designs. I cannot say enough about this series and how it was originally on the Sega CD and got a second port on the PlayStation 1, which was very rare back when that happened. Rarely did you ever see an RPG get reprinted onto a newer system, and Working Designs went through the hassle of doing it. And you can tell the love that they put into it by upgrading a lot of the all the video sequences and cutscenes, and how they put extras in with the game, with the Omaki box, and the leather bound instruction manuals, and the foil covers and all this other stuff. And the game is just as good as all of the candy coating that's on the outside. Well, that's it for this episode of Moandain Designs. I'm your host, Moandain, and I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed making it. If you like what you see, you can support me and my channel by clicking on one of the links below for my Patreon. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.